This photo illustrates the front brakes on the W124. The rotor, red arrow, rotates with the wheel, and the caliper, yellow arrow, squeezes the rotor when you apply the brakes. The nice thing about the calipers is they are fixed and do not need to be removed to change the pads. The pads can be changed through the opening in the caliper, red arrows. Remove the two brake wear sensors by gently pulling the sensor's end from the pad, red arrow, and then removing the end from the connector on the caliper, yellow arrow. The wires should run under the lip of the spring clip. Use a small punch and tap out the retaining pins that hold the brake pads and the caliper, red arrows. Once the one end of the pin is free of the caliper, push down on the spring clip to help remove it the rest of the way. The new pads may have come with new pins. If they did not, clean the old ones up with a Scotch-Brite pad. With the pins removed, take out the brake pad retaining spring clip, red arrow. On some calipers and pads, you can use a screwdriver between the pads and the rotor to push the pistons back into the caliper and remove the pads. On this caliper, I recommend you use a large wrench or channel locks and squeeze the pads back towards the caliper, red arrows. When pushing the pistons back into the caliper, you will be causing the brake fluid to be pushed back up through the system and into the brake fluid reservoir. If your reservoir was full, you may need to use a turkey baster and remove some fluid, red arrow. Make sure the area around the cap and the baster are clean before performing this work. You do not want to get any contaminants into the brake fluid. Use a screwdriver and pry the pads out from the caliper, red arrow. If they are old, they may be stuck to the pistons. If you are just inspecting the pads, check for any glazing, grooves, uneven wear, or missing material. These pads are in good shape with lots of life left, red arrow. Inspect the inside of the calipers. Check for any damage, rust, or tears in the dust boots around the pistons, red arrow. Now is a good time to clean up all of the old brake dust that will be in this area. This photo illustrates where the pistons made contact with the back of the old pads. You can also see the anti-squeal, red arrow, that was applied. Some pads will come equipped with an anti-squeal backing. It is a good idea to apply a little of anti-squeal to the back of the pads. Just make sure not to get any on the actual pad surface. Installation is the reverse of removal. When finished with both sides, press on the brake pedal repeatedly to make sure the pads and pistons seat properly. Also make sure to top off the master brake cylinder fluid reservoir if necessary. Brake pads typically can take between 100 and 200 miles to completely break in. It's typical for braking performance to suffer slightly as the pads begin their wear-in period. Make sure that you avoid any heavy braking or emergency maneuvers during this period. Thanks for watching. Click here to view the original article along with hundreds of other DIY content for your car.